Hi, my name is Anthony Hines. For the last 40 plus years, I've been trying to help people with their career and help people, if they're unemployed, to get a great job. Unemployment's tough, people. It's not something that is very easy to navigate. It took me a while to learn the rules as I saw them. Once I did, I dedicated myself to trying to help people to get their next opportunity. Because you know why? When you're out of work, everybody else has their routine. Everybody else has their life and they have what they do regarding their work, their business, and the like that keeps them busy. But when you're unemployed, it's really hard because you don't have that routine and you don't have that um, you know, that common or stable reason to keep going that you do when you're working. Obviously, your family, your spiritual life, and all of the important things are the real reason you keep going. I understand that, but regarding your routine and your work life and your professional life, not having a job really affects that because you don't have the routine. Today, I want to talk about some things that people just don't talk about, okay? And that is things like your credit, your background, your history, okay? All I can tell you is be transparent when you're doing your applications. A lot of people, I won't say a lot, but some people think that companies won't go far back to find things, okay? Or, especially if you've had a checkered past where you've been incarcerated or you've had some issues with the law. Um, all I'm telling you is, when in doubt, be transparent about things like that. Obviously, a lot of these things happen when you were young, or a lot of these things happen when, before you were as professional or together as you are now. But failure to tell people about that in your application is a real risk because I have seen people let out the door after they got the job because something in their application was incorrect and was a downright lie. Okay? So just because you get the job, if you get it, don't think that your background is still not being checked. In many companies, though you are hired, the background process may take a while, especially if you're in government or if you're in some sort of a security area where high security matters. So be transparent on your applications regarding any of your past, um, transgressions. That said, read the application and see what the criteria that they're looking for. I mean, if they don't care about speeding tickets or jaywalking or something stupid, if you want to list it, that's fine. But my point is, if they're looking for felonies or large scale issues, just give them what they need. And if you want to list the other stuff, that's fine. My point is, don't try to hide things because people will find it. And just because you get the job doesn't mean that they won't still keep looking. So make sure you do that. Next thing, drug testing. A lot of companies look for drug testing. Some people really push the limits on that, thinking that it won't be a big deal or thinking that they won't be drug tested for a while, so they continue to do their drug of choice. Well, get this, people. If you're hired, they may ask you to do a drug test with no notice. Okay? Why? Because they're busy and they want you to get in there. So, my point to you is companies are very um, not very flexible when it comes to people that fail their drug test. If you're not ready, if you fail that test, you might as well just forget it in most cases because companies are not very flexible in that area. So you better make sure if you have a drug of choice that could possibly be come up on a drug test, be ready for that. And be ready that they may call you with very little notice to take that test. Sure, they're supposed to give you notice. I agree with all that. But sometimes things happen. So you want to be ready. Also, during that process, list all of the medications you take, buy none. List all the supplements you take. Because sometimes um, drug testing can come out with a false positive based on a supplement that you may be taking. Sure, you may think it's no big deal, but all I'm trying to tell you is be transparent to everything you do because you don't need a false positive. Companies don't want to hear about it, and they'll just go on to the next candidate because the fact is whenever they see certain things, they're done. And they're done with you. Okay? They're not interested in hearing your excuses. They're not interested in hearing your story. They're not interested in hearing your once upon a time fairy tale. You know what? On to the next candidate. So make sure you're ready. Make sure you're really aware of this stuff. Make sure you're transparent in those areas. Okay? Next, your FICO score. You may think, oh, having my credit, it's not a big deal. Well, more and more companies are not hiring people with bad FICO scores because they're concerned that they may try to take money from the company to pay their credit card bills. Okay? Now, especially if you're in a financial position. So, what I'm telling you is make sure your FICO score is the best it can be while you're unemployed, and make sure if there are any issues, you get them fixed because FICO scores could be a reason why you may not get hired. So go out and fix your FICO score, fix your credit. Make sure your credit is the best it can possibly be. I know people never think it's going to happen to them. I agree until it does. And then guess what? You're trying to um, wiggle your way out of that while you're looking for a job. So my point is get your FICO score ready and correct because you don't need to be losing opportunities because you don't have a good credit score. Check the credit bureaus. They'll give you free reports. Check with the credit bureaus and make sure that your credit is good. These are things that you will have no idea that could get in the way of you getting a job. No one's going to tell you it. They just don't. They just go on. Okay? So be aware of this stuff and make sure that you're on top of all of those items. Now, more and more people are getting affected by credit card fraud and other types of fraud. You don't need that problem when you're unemployed. Okay? Because your time needs to be looking for a job, not to be cleaning up credit card fraud. Sure, it could be bad timing. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom. I'm just telling you to think of these things because the fact is they can happen. And you don't need it to happen to you when you're trying to look for a job. Okay? So my point to you is regarding credit card fraud, here's what I want you to do. Set up with your bank accounts and set up with your credit cards and set up with all your financial people to have very, very complex passwords with things like I went to college. My friend is Jane. Those are your passwords because those are the passwords that people will have a hard time remembering. Or, excuse me, will have a hard time breaking while you will remember them very easily because they're important to you. As I say, things like my children are great. I love nice weather. Or something that you're going to remember regarding a group of words and then your favorite numbers and your favorite symbols if needed. But my point is, do not make your passwords easy. Go into all of your financial places, change your passwords, make them that type of password so that you will be better protected. My point is, fix these problems before they happen to you. All right? Because if you do that, it's one less thing you have to worry about. Next, go out and all of your bank accounts and all of your credit cards and everything to do with finance, set up text alerts based on transactions that are a penny. That way, every single transaction you get a text on. Because you know what? Scamming is happening. Credit card fraud is happening. And it's very hard to get past credit card fraud if the transaction is already settled and the product is shipped. Obviously, you're not going to know this stuff because you're going to wait till your next statement. So do not put yourself in a situation where you're waiting for your next statement. Go out, set up text alerts for every transaction you get. You may think, "Oh man, I'll be harassed with too many transactions." Believe me, you'll get used to it. And the fact is, you'll say, "Okay, I know that. Okay, I know that. Okay, I know that." It will become something that you are okay with because you realize that these things are protecting you. Okay? So remember, make sure your applications are transparent. Make sure you're ready to drug test if they need you to test. Make sure that everything you need to write regarding transparency for any type of issues comes out in proper detail. Okay? And also, check your FICO score. Make sure your score is correct, the best it can be, because sometimes you don't get jobs because you don't have good credit. I know it's not fair. It happens. So make sure it's good. Your FICO score is good. Then, also, set up text alerts for all your transactions. You don't need to be fighting credit card fraud when you're trying to get a job. And the fact is, that could be a complete coincidence, but you never know. Things happen to people, and they happen without you telling them to happen. They just happen. So make sure you do that because credit card fraud exists. It's out there. It's probably already happened to someone you know, if not yourself. But if you're unemployed, you don't need to be dealing with that. Make sure that you're properly protected. If that means you got to get things like LifeLock or credit card protection from your bank, do it. A lot of banks have free protection. Make sure you get it and set up your text alerts so that you're always aware of everything that comes and goes regarding your financial life. Make sure that happens. Okay? Now, also, too, as I've said many times, keep an eye on your social media. Make sure that it's clean. Make sure the pictures look good. Make sure that you do something that your name doesn't show to be a common name. Make sure that name that's unique is on your resume, is in your LinkedIn profile, and all your social media. My point is look for things that could not get you the job that you don't realize could not get you the job or that you didn't prepare for that could not get you the job. You don't need to fight through application, interviews, multiple interviews, callbacks, check-ins, just to have something happen at the end to where you don't get the job. You're in charge of this. You're in control of this. Get your life in those areas straight. Get your story straight and have it all ready because you never know when that's going to be needed. Okay? My name is Anthony Hines. For the last 40 years, I've asked you, well, I haven't asked you. I've gone out and I've tried to help people with their career and their to get a new good job. Go out to my LinkedIn profile and get my job search article. It's out there under Anthony V. Hines. Go out and follow those items. Get the checklist, follow the items off my article that is on LinkedIn. It's going to get your job search moving. Look for my tips of the day in my LinkedIn groups that I'm involved in, and look for my podcasts that are on Podbean. Spread the word, people. I want to end unemployment one person at a time. And also, remember, as for these aspects that I'm discussing, and as for everything regarding your career is your responsibility. To wait for someone else is a missed opportunity. And if it doesn't happen for you, you got nobody to blame but yourself because everybody else is looking at their career. So you take care of your career because your career, as I say, is your responsibility. Again, Anthony Hines, feel free to contact me anytime at the email address that's listed in my LinkedIn profile. I look forward to the feedback. Come and listen to all my podcasts. There's now over 100 of them, and they're really good. Because you know why? They're not from some book, people. They're from my experience. My experience. I lived it. I'll tell you what I did wrong. I'll tell you what I did right. And the fact is, maybe not everything works for you, but something will. And you know what? When you're unemployed, you're looking for something. And my stuff will give you a lot of somethings for you to try and check on because those things, all you need is one job. Because remember, people, you're only looking for one job. Have a great day now. Bye bye.